Maybe. Okay. According to my audience analysis conducted on April 10th, I found out that 62% of you think that Israel belongs to the Israelis. I mean, that Jerusalem belongs to the Israelis. But over 80% of you couldn't really give me a good reason why. And for the 20% that did, you gave me a general answer, kind of a guess really, and it shows me that you guys know some of you know something about it, but most of you really don't. But luckily, 67% of you show an actual interest in the topic, and I hope today that I can be able to elaborate and make you know more about this topic. Jerusalem is a city that has thousands of years of tradition, conflict, and history trapped within its walls. And the reason I picked this topic is because I believe my faith as a Catholic, and my own curiosity to pick a topic that is kind of left field that no one would expect, like, everyone else is going to do something on cancer, or they're going to do something on anorexia, or music therapy, or music fest, etc. But today I'm going to show you Jerusalem's religious significance, what do world leaders think about the topic, and the opinion of Americans at home. Jerusalem is a city that is one of the oldest cities in the world. It is steeped in culture and is important to many different religions, ranging from Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. But most importantly to Judaism. This is the Western Wall, also known as the Wailing Wall. It's important to the Jews because it's the last physical vestige of their faith that still exists, because all the way back in 76 AD, when the Romans invaded Israel, that area, they destroyed it, and this is all that's left. And this is very important because countless and countless Jews make a pilgrimage every year to here to pray, put a letter in the wall, put a rock on the wall, etc. The reason it's so important to Christianity is because Christ was crucified in Jerusalem, and Jerusalem's kind of where Christianity got its roots and actually got started. And countless Christians every year make a pilgrimage to Jerusalem to walk and sometimes carry a cross and walk the same steps that Christ walked on those narrow streets. Now, the reason why Islam in Jerusalem is so important is because that right there is the Dome of the Rock, or a temple. And it is so important to Islam because in there, in the center, is a rock that Muhammad, the Prophet Muhammad, used to ascend to heaven. And this is very important because countless Muslims it's almost as religious to them as Mecca, their holy capital, is. And they make sojourns or religious pilgrimages here every year. Now that we've talked about the religious importance, let's see what world leaders think. David Nakamura, a writer for the Washington Post, wrote in his December article of 2017 that titled, "Trump Recognizes Jerusalem as the Capital of Israel in a Reversal of Longtime U.S. Policy." And in that speech, he has Trump quoting, "While previous presidents have made this campaign promise, they failed to deliver. Today, I am delivering." What he means by this is that presidents going all the way back to Clinton in 1992 during his campaign made the promise that Jerusalem would belong to the Israelis. And he wasn't the only president that made this promise but didn't follow through when he became president. George H.W. Bush did it in 2000, and more recently Barack Obama in 2008. And this shows a great shift in policy, especially U.S. policy regarding Israeli and Palestinian relations and kind of how we're going to solve this issue. But Trump has been meeting some friction in the international community, whether that specifically from leaders in Europe and the Pope. Jason Horowitz, a writer for the New York Times, wrote in his December article, UN, European Union, and Pope criticizes Trump's Jerusalem announcement. In it, he quotes the Pope saying, "I pray to the Lord that such identity be preserved and strengthened for the benefit of the Holy Land, the Middle East, and the entire world, and that wisdom, prudence prevail to avoid adding new elements of tension in a world already shaken and scarred by many cruel events." The Pope is taking a stance of peace. He wants the status quo to remain the same, where they both peacefully or semi-peacefully coincide, and that no further conflict or bloodshed happens. But Horowitz also quotes the French president, French President Emmanuel Macron, and then he says, France and Europe are committed to a two-state solution. Now, the two-state solution is one obviously run jointly, that Jerusalem will be run jointly by Palestinians and Israelis, and kind of coincide and try to avoid any further conflict is what most leaders are trying to do. Horowitz also has the German Chancellor, Angela Merkel, and she says that Germany does not support this position because the status of Jerusalem is to be resolved in the framework of a two-state solution. Now what this shows is that many world leaders, and even the Pope, are going up against Trump's moving because they want to maintain the knife-edge peace or knife-edge normality that exists between Palestinians and Israelis. Now that we've talked about what world leaders think, let's discuss what the American people think. A survey in Eugene Scott's December of 2017 article for the Washington Post titled "Jewish and Evangelicals Americans Are Divided Over the Plan to Move the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem," he references an AJC, or an American Jewish Coalition article, where only 16% of American Jews are really for the president or for the move of the recognition. And 33% are for it at a later date, and 44% are against it entirely. In conclusion, Jerusalem is a city that has thousands of years of tradition, conflict, and history trapped within its walls. And today I have discussed Jerusalem's religious significance, what world leaders think of it, and the opinions of Americans at home. And I hope that what I have showed you today allowed you to be more informed about a topic that is going to become more and more relevant as the date to that move comes closer. Thank you.